Whoops. That was the wrong button. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all well. My name is Phil, and welcome to Phil Does 3D. I'm a multimedia and 3D artist, and I stream live on Twitch on Mondays and Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time in the United States, which is 10 a.m. in Australia or 1 a.m. if you're in the UK. But do remember, if you do miss the live streams, you can always catch up with the premiere event streams on a Friday and Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time in the US, 7 a.m. in Australia, or 10 p.m. if you are in the UK. I hope all you guys and girls are well. You had a good weekend and a good week. Sorry about last week, guys. I came down with the flu, so if I'm sounding a little bit nasally, that's the reason why. And my apologies in advance if I have to cough occasionally as well. Yes, terrible winter flu that was going around. Smurfberry Barbecue, yo to you too. And Galen, good to see you, Galen. So sorry about last week, guys. Yeah, I came down with the flu. There's this winter flu that's been going around here in Australia. It's actually killed like 500 people this winter in this country. So it's been quite bad. And I caught it. I was hoping I could get through the whole winter without getting it, but no. What can you do? It was terrible too. I had sore eyes, my head was congested, my throat was killing me, I was tired all the time. It wasn't good. So yes, my apologies again if I sound a little nasally and if I do cough occasionally. At least you can't catch it from me being on the other side of the world, can you? So 500 people though. Killed 500 people in this country this winter. It's been a bad flu. Generally, they're really young people or really old people, just to clarify. But not always. There have been a couple of, younger people that have caught it that haven't been, toddlers or old people. I shouldn't laugh. It's not good. People dying is not good. Galen says it's 104 here. I'll trade you some heat for some cold. No, you keep your heat. I'm dreading summer coming this year in Australia because last year was just awful. I hate to think what's in store this year, particularly with the Amazon rainforest burning out of control and pumping all that carbon dioxide up into the atmosphere. It's not good. It's not going to be good for the climate either. It's really going to, it's just not good all around. I mean, the fact that, rainforest is burning is terrible. The fact that the Amazon produces so much oxygen for the planet is terrible, and it's all being burnt up. And so summer in Australia, I think, coming is going to be terrible. So think of me at Christmas time when you guys are sitting down to your Christmas dinner and it's nice and cold in the US, in Europe. It'll be burning hot here in this country. Today's nice, actually. Today's about, I think at the moment it's probably about 10 or 11 degrees Celsius, whatever that converts to in Fahrenheit. So yes, no, the winter's been nice. I'm not looking forward to the summer. I'm not looking forward to it at all. I've told you guys, I've threatened to move as close to Antarctica as I can get and still be an Australian, and that is moving to Tasmania, which is south from where I am here in Melbourne. I'm considering it. I am. I hate hot weather. I hate it so much. Anyway, enough of Phil's bitching. We are going to continue working on the Temple of the Winds model you see right here. We're creating it in 3D Studio Max. We're texturing it up in Substance Painter. We are going to be doing some beauty renders in Eon View, and we're going to take a couple of the assets probably into Mari just to do a bit of overpainting on. Not all of them, just a couple of them here and there. That's the plan anyway. Best laid plans. And we should hopefully, I want to try and finish the texturing stage on this in Substance today and tomorrow. Let's see how we go. Let's see if I can get it done. If Sniper Girl was here, I know what she would say. So let's jump back into Substance Painter here. I have it all ready to go. The last asset we were working on is this ring that goes around the inside of the pond. So let us do that. We just laid down this texture last week. And I think I want to make some changes to this. I don't like the color, so I'm going to change the color a little bit. Let's start with the ring color. Let's make it Let's take it more into a grey blue. That's better. Pattern background, midpoint, border color, triangle color. Let's look at this one. I might take this into a bit more of a green. That's better. What else do we have here? What else can we play with? The pattern background, let's look at that one. This is the one I want. I want to take this one into more of a green because if you remember the tiles we placed inside of the pond, they're green tiles. I want to sort of keep consistency with that design, so I'm going to change this to a green. I could change it to a complementary colour to a green if I wanted to make it stand out a bit more. But I'm going to stick to just a green colour, I think. If I can find a greeny bluey colour I like. Maybe something like that. I'm going to jump back into Max in a minute and I'm just going to double check the green that I'm using in Max. Try and get a bit of a blend between them to make sure the greens, they don't have to be exactly the same colour, but to make sure that they'll blend nicely together. Yeah, let's do that now. So I'm just going to jump back into Max. Wait for Max to get its act together. Come on, Max, you can do it. There we go. And that's because I think, I've mentioned it before, Substance Painter wants the graphics card and Max wants the graphics card. And it takes the driver a couple of seconds there to try and work out who should have it first. So I'm just going to select our pond area and isolate that so I can have a look at the green. Okay. Back into Substance Painter. That should work out well. That green colour doesn't look too bad. Okay. Now I might just throw down one more layer on this. I'm just going to delete this layer here because we're not using it. And this layer here because it's blank. We might just throw down one more layer and I might just add like a dirt layer. Do remember, guys and girls, if you've got any questions while I'm working, please feel free to jump into chat and ask me. If all you want to do is watch though, that's completely fine. I just like to say that for anyone new that might be watching my channel and thinks that they can't disturb me, because I'm not here really to work on this stuff. I'm here more to chat to you guys. So well, I am here to work on my stuff, but you know what I mean. I don't mind chatting to you guys. What do I want? What do I want? There is a texture I used for dirt. I think it's this mud texture here. So we might throw that down and we'll have a look at doing a smart mask on top of that. Let's just turn off the height and the normal because it's dirt. We don't want height and normal information. I'm just going to look at the tiling a little bit. And I'm going to change the color as well. I'm just going to make it a bit darker. Because we're not using it as mud, we're using it as like a dirt layer. Let's throw down a smart mask. Let's also just do a quick save here, because you never know. You just never know I'm just going to pop in one of my lozenges as well while I'm talking for my throat. It's one of those Benadryl or Benadryl or whatever it's called, those, cold and flu lozenge things. They taste disgusting, but what can you do? Now I'm going to throw down this ground dirt smart mask, I think. Let's see what that gives us. Oh, no, I did. I was thinking I didn't do a bake app, but I did. Okay. Just wondering why we're not getting a oh, there we go. Don't know if I like this smart mask actually. Yeah, I'm not sold on this one yet. Let me see if I can play with the sliders a little bit, see if I can get something I like. So my apologies for sucking on a lozenge while I'm talking to you guys. I just want a hint of dirt in this. I don't want it to be too heavy. Because the smart material does actually have a dirt value, but it just wasn't dirty enough. I like it nice and dirty. We're not going to see the top or the back, we're only going to see this inside ledge here. So that's where I'm really concentrating on looking at. It shouldn't be too bad. I just wanted just a hint of dirt. Because I think our water layer is going to sit just below that dirt layer there, so probably about just over halfway will be where the actual water layer will be. So let us do a save and let us export the texture. Yes. Why is the texture called Spike Tops? That's not right. Let me rename this. We're going to call this one Pond Top Ring. That's better. Let's export the textures again. I'm going to export it 2K. 2K should be big enough. If not, we can always come back. And I'm going to export it to... temp, send to substance. I'm going to create a new folder. Because remember, we didn't send this one over to Substance with the plugin because the plugin was playing up. We did it manually. So we're going to call it Pond Top Ring. And let's export it. Okay. And in fact, I think for the rest of these assets, I'm not going to use the plugin. I'm going to do it manually. It'll just save time in the long run. Back into Max when Max decides to get its brain together and light up. Okay, you can do it, Max. You can do it. There we go. Let's jump out of isolation mode. Come on, Max. Max is still thinking, there we go. And I'm going to select our ring, which is this one. We'll jump back into isolation mode. And let's pull that texture in. Now I'm probably not going to create a DirectX material for this. I'll just create a normal material. So it's not going to look exactly like it does in Substance Painter, but we'll get an idea of what it's going to look like. So I'm only going to load up the diffuse texture. I'm not going to load up the metallic or the roughness. Work. Temp. Pond top ring, that's what we called it, wasn't it? And we want the texture. Let's just make sure we've turned our material on so we can see it. And assign it to our ring. Okay. Now, like I said, the dirt's looking a little heavy here because we haven't added the roughness or the metallic. It'll look like it does in Substance when we take it into Eon View, because we'll set up a PBR material in Eon View. But let's go back to our full model view. And those colours should blend together okay, I think. Okay. Well, let's move on to another asset. Again, I'm just making sure that everything looks fine. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, let's do these steps here so we can get the tiling for the terrace part completed. Now, I was thinking we might go with, I want to keep the pattern the same because you don't want to mix and match too much because it's just going to look like a hodgepodge. But I thought we might change the colour. So instead of going with this blue, tealy blue, we might switch it more to a green, and that'll help pick up the green that we're using inside the pond. But to do that, because I created this this material inside of Alchemist, Substance Alchemist, we're going to have to open up Alchemist, and I'm going to have to make a change to the color in Alchemist and save out the new substance. So let's do that. And again, I'm just looking at it in an overview to get an idea if I do want it to be a green or what color I might want. I could go with a yellow if I really wanted the second step there to stand out. You could go with like a yellow-orange. That would blend okay. But I think a green. I don't want it to stand out too much. So again, let's just make sure we do a save here in Max, because you never know with 3D Studio Max. And once that's saved out, I will jump into Alchemist. So let's load up Alchemist. I did press the button, there we go. I'm thinking, what are you doing? Okay, so we're going to there we go. So this is the smart, but it's not smart. The material I created in Alchemist for the tiles. It's just got some moss growing on it and all that sort of stuff. Let's change the color. So where it's this dark blue, let's change that to more of a dark green. Might be a bit dark, let's just lighten that up a little bit. Where it's this purple color, which is the ring. Let's change that to maybe a little bit more into the blue. Color 2 here, let's change that into more of a green. Let's change this light blue into more of a green. A greeny yellow, I think. Maybe not quite that much. Maybe darken it up a little bit. Smurfberry says, just put the orb in the level like that. I'm just going to darken it up a little bit more. The green's just a little bit too vibrant. Just going to take this one into a little bit more of the green as well. Maybe darken it up just a little bit. And that should be good. I just wanted a green version of what we were using before. So let me export this. I'm saving it as a SBZAR file. We're going to save it at 2K resolution. And I'm going to put it in my substance shelf. And we're going to call it my green. My green tiles. Oop, that's not quite right. Select the folder. There we go. Material name here, we're going to call it my mossy green tiles. Moosey. Let's just call it moss green tiles. Yeah, but that should be good. I didn't use Alchemist all that much, so I'm just trying to remember how I add it to my resources here, to my first collection thing. Because I've forgotten. We've exported it. Yeah. Orb, that's right, Smurfberry. Yeah, no, it's my apologies here, guys. I'm just trying to work out how I do that, or if it does it automatically. I can't remember. In fact, let's just double check that it is in my collection here. My green mossy tiles, I think that's the one. Nope, that's the one. And you add it just by dragging and dropping. Took me a minute, but I got there in the end. Let's close down Alchemist. Let's jump back into Max. Let's export this, what do we call this? We'll call this terrace step, yeah. So yeah, I'm not going to use the plugin because the plugin, it was written a long time ago. It hasn't been updated for a very long time. This is the free plugin, by the way, you download from Algorithmic's forum. Yeah, it hasn't been updated in a long time and it caused problems last time we used it with the export of the model, of the mesh. So I'm just going to export manually and we'll do it that way. Export selected. Let's create a new folder. Terrace step. And let's call it terrace step. Let's jump back into Substance Painter. Create a new project. Temp. Terrace step, that's what we want. I'm going to compute tangent space because I'm going to take this model into UE4 for part of the game we're making, which we're working on next after this. And let's set the resolution at 2K. And let us bake out our maps. We have two texture sets here, one for the front of the step and one for the actual tile that goes on top. There are no IDs, that's why it's giving me a warning. Okay, we're going to call this step sides. Terrace step sides. And this will be terrace step top. Okay. Materials. I just want to see if it's smart enough to recognize I put a new material in the shelf and pick it up. We'll find out. Actually, it's easier for me just to do a filter by my. Green tiles, it did, it was smart enough. Aztec Alpha, thank you for the follow, Aztec Alpha. I do appreciate it. When you guys follow my Twitch channel, and my apologies if you did it and I missed it. Thank you for following Aztec Alpha. Do remember guys too to join the Discord server if you like. That's the link I've just popped into chat. The Discord is a place where you guys can ask questions about 3D or art in general, I guess. There's a section where you can show off your work in the gallery. There's a section where you can link to your ArtStation or your folio and all that sort of stuff. If you want, you don't have to. And remember, if you're watching this back on a Friday and Saturday when I'm not live, the restream, you can click the blue graphic in my panels below my stream that says join the Phil Does 3D Discord. You can get an invite link by clicking that at any time. So the terrace step top, let's throw down the green tile for that one. And let us scale it so we can get a better fit. And we're going to offset it a little bit as well. Not in that direction. These sliders are so fiddly. They really are in Substance Painter. Totaku textures, yes, that's right, Totaku. Totaku is asking, I have 2 questions for texturing in gaming. How low poly is good for a game? Since the people I know use Maya, which has Clark spelling that wrong, so that an object like a circle like a circle seems round, but not when baking textures, because it returns back to being hard before Clark smooths it. I'm assuming that's like the Turbo Smooth modifier, maybe in Max, that you're talking about. So it's is a higher topology better? Well, with a game, you've always got to be aware of going overboard. Too many polygons, you're going to have problems with performance. Not enough polygons, you're going to have problems with the thing looking too low res and the silhouette being all jaggy and horrible. So that fine balancing act for polygons on a model in a game engine. Having said that, today's graphics cards are incredibly powerful. Things like the Unreal Engine, and I'm sure that Unity is the same, can handle millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of polygons now on screen at once. So the poly count thing is not as much an issue as it used to be like 10 years ago. But you always still want to use as few polygons as you need, because it'll just perform better overall. So people with lower hardware will be able to run your game. So I'm just not sure what... So higher topology, are you talking about for the texturing itself? So for texturing in gaming, it depends on the art style. Yeah, it does. Scalen's saying it depends on the art style. It does depend on the art style. Yeah, it really does. That's a big take. I'm talking more realistic style here. The game that I'm making, The House on the Hollow, we're talking about that type of... That's what I'm talking about with higher poly. So, yeah, it really depends on the game. It depends on the platforms that you're targeting your game to be run on. It depends on the art style, as Galen says, as to how many polys you should have for a model. It's sort of like... There is no one size fits all. It really does depend on all those things. It depends on things like if it's going to be a multiplayer game or a single player game, how many characters are going to be on the screen at one time, because you have to take that into consideration with your poly budget in your game. So the more characters, the lower the poly budget. Multiplayer, fewer characters than fewer triangles rather than single player, because it has to be streamed. Yeah, so I can't really give you, I can't say use 5,000 polygons. That's because it depends. It even depends on the actual model, the asset itself, what it is. You know, if it's a tree, if it's a bush, if it's a lamppost, if it's a fence, yeah, all those things are going to be different. Having said that, my recommendations for creating games today in 2019 is to work in high polygon, because you can always reduce the polys, but it's harder to add polys. It's much more work to add polygons than to reduce them. So I always work in a high polygon, and then I reduce it down up when I start doing an optimization run on the game engine, on the game level. I find that's the best way to work, because it's easier for me to reduce polygons than to add polygons. So I work in high res, high poly, and then when I do an optimization pass over the level, then I start knocking it back. And the great thing about the Unreal Engine, if that's what you're going to be using, is you can do all of that inside the engine on the fly, and it's non-destructive. So there is you can do lotting inside of Unreal, and you can reduce the triangle count that way. It's non-destructive, so if you don't like it, you can go back to the original model. Or you can do it outside in a third-party program. Max has optimization, poly optimization and stuff as well. And thank you for the follow as well, Topdaku. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your username. The guys in my chat here will tell you, my regulars, that I'm terrible with usernames. So yeah, I can't... As far as texturing goes, you're going to find it easier to do a UV map on a lower poly model than a higher poly model. Simply because there are a few polygons to have to move around when you're doing your UV mapping. So UV mapping will be easier on a low poly model, but I still would work in a high poly, And then I do reduction when you start doing optimization passes on the game to get it to run at the speed you want it to on the platform you want it to. Because yeah, if you're targeting like a PC, it's less of a problem, or the Mac, or if you're targeting a games console, it's a bit more of a problem because they're not as powerful as PCs. If you're targeting a mobile platform or VR, then it's much more of an issue because mobiles are nowhere near as powerful as computers or games consoles. So yeah, depends on the platform, depends on the art style, depends on the object, and yeah. So yeah, I can't give you a one-size-fits-all answer, really. Try it and see. Like I said though, my workflow is do it high poly, then reduce it if you need to. So do it high poly, bring it into the game engine, see how it runs, see if you're getting performance issues. If you are, then do an optimization and reduce the poly count on the model. See, the good thing about starting with high poly too, even if you do want to go to a really low poly model, is you can use the high poly model to do a bake out of the normals for the low poly model. So you'll still keep all of that model detail by baking it into a normal map on the low poly. But you'll still need to start with a high poly to do that to begin with. So Toteku says, no, it's cool. I've just been coming into issues because I've been getting cylinder shapes to texture, but because they are so low poly, they look like hexagons. And I'm not sure to tell my boss to add poly so that it's smooth, since it's even messing up the normals. Okay, so you're using cylinders and you're saying the cylinders are coming out like hexagons because they're so low poly. Have you added smoothing groups to your to the polys? Because that will make it look smooth even if it's really hexagonal. Make sure you're adding a smoothing group to it. That'll make a big difference. If they're hard edges, you're going to get that hexagon look. But if you smooth the edges, add a smoothing group, then that should smooth it out. I mean, if you look at it from the top, you're still going to see the hexagon look. If you look at it from the side though, it should look smooth. So make sure there's smoothing groups. That might be a problem. But if you're talking about looking at it from the top and you're getting that hexagon look, the only way to fix that is really to increase the poly count to make it look smooth and round. Yeah, you can do other things like you can tessellate inside of a game engine. UE4, you can do tessellation, dynamic tessellation. So when the camera gets near an object that's low poly like that, it adds polygons to tessellate the object up. I was using tessellation in the game that I'm making for the ground. I've removed that now because tessellation was really big a few years ago, like let's say 5 years ago. Now it's not so big because game engines can take a lot more polygons because graphics cards are much more powerful. And it can cause other problems, particularly if you want to start doing things like real-time ray tracing. Tessellation and real-time ray tracing don't work well together. So I'm not saying it's being phased out, but it's not being used as much anymore, tessellation in games. Game designers are going more for a high poly model to begin with because it has problems for real-time ray tracing. It has other problems as well with lighting and stuff, so. But yeah, tessellation used to be a way to get around that problem. Now my advice would be to increase the poly count on the model in your 3D engine before you import it. And how to tell your boss, yeah, it's always hard to tell your boss that it's too low, I need more polygons. Because then, then the character artist is going to start bitching because, they're going to have to start taking character. They're going to have to start removing their poly budget from the character artist to make up for the extra polys they're using in the environment. It's a real battle. Android Lust says smoothing groups does make a big difference. It does. Also, if you're using substance to texture, I'm pretty sure it will pick up if you're using a smoothing group. No problem, Android. It's good to see you, Android Lust. My apologies for last week, guys and girls, again. Pardon me for coughing. I came down with the winter flu. And again, if I'm sounding nasally, that's the reason why. So yeah, no, I was late. I was in bed. I was not well. Really, shivering in bed, fever, all that sort of stuff. It wasn't good. So yeah, smoothing groups will make a big difference. So try smoothing groups if you only need to see the cylinder from the front. If you're looking at the cylinder from the top, then the only way to fix that hexagonal look is going to be to increase the poly count. A smoothing group's not going to help. That's what I mean when you're talking about looking at the silhouette of an object. Too low a polygon object is going to have a bad silhouette, and a smoothing group won't really fix that either. But a smoothing group will help, for sure. Android Lust says, it's no problem, Phil. I'm getting sick. Happens. No need to. Thank you, Android Lust. Yes, no, I am. It was terrible. Really bad. I was telling the guys and girls earlier in the stream that about 500 people in this country this winter died of the winter flu. It's been really, really, really bad. I didn't die, but I certainly felt like I was going to. It was terrible. Dotaku says, hey, wait, if you aren't using tessellation, then how do you get the grainy detail for like with dirt? Also, thank you with the advice. You just stopped me from having to spend hours looking up info. No problems. I'm not saying you shouldn't use tessellation, particularly if you're not going to do real-time ray tracing in your game, which a lot of studios still aren't doing because it's still such a new thing and it's only supported by NVIDIA. But you can't use real-time tessellation with real-time ray tracing, at least not at the moment. It may change in the future, but in UE4 at the moment you can't. And I was using it, like I said, for my ground, but I have since removed it. Not that I'm using real-time ray tracing yet in the game either, so just in case I do want to. But it has other problems as well, not just with real-time ray tracing. But it's still be good to use. I'm not saying don't use tessellation. If you want to use it for your ground, then that's fine. That's what I was doing. That and the fact too, with my ground in the game that we're making, most of the ground is covered with grass or trees or bushes. So there really wasn't a lot of use for tessellation. It wasn't seen enough for me to actually have tessellation in the engine. Now, having said that, when I say I removed it, what I've done is I've disconnected the nodes in my material, my shader, in Unreal, that control the tessellation. So if I ever want to put it back, it's only a question of me reconnecting the node to the rest of the node graph. So it's been disabled in my game. It's still in the shader though. So if I do want to re-enable it, it's easy and quick for me to do. Now we have a decision to make here as to whether we want to keep this as a circle or if I want to stretch the circle out to fill the entire step. We could go either way. Pardon me again, guys. We could go either way. So I'm just going to sort of swivel around the model here and decide what I think might look better. And I'm sort of trying to use my mind's eye here to picture it on the model in Max. I could export the texture, we could check it that way, but I don't really need to. I can picture it in my head. I'm going to see what it looks like stretched out. So we want to unlock the scale. Let's just make some small adjustments here. No, wrong way. I always go the wrong way. Maybe just a little bit more. And I'm actually thinking this might look better. It doesn't look too stretched. I was just worried that the thing might look too stretched out, but I think that's fine. Okay. Well, let's move on to the sides here now, which will be this one up here. Now, I did create a smart material that we made for the other steps we created. So we're just going to reuse that. Again, I'm going to filter by my, so I can find the ones that I created. And this one, my terrace sides, that's the one we want. Let's just play with the scaling a little bit. And it's going to be this texture here. Well, it should be good. Let's save our project. What do we call this? I've already forgotten. Large terrace base, no. What did I call this? Stairs border spire, small terrace, deco, small ladder, deco, small. Large terrace, I can't for the life of me remember what we... Name it one, I know, I should name it one, that would make my life much easier. What did I call the thing? Wow. Small terrace decos, no. Small border stairs, step rails, teapot, terrace step, that's what I called it. Wow. Don't you hate that? Naming it 1, 2, 3, 4 would make life easier, but that will make my life much more difficult when we have to jump into Eon View and we have to set up the shaders, the PBR shaders inside of View. If we just got everything in 1, 2, and 3, and 4 folders, it will make life a nightmare. Okay, let's export our textures. These sides here I'm going to export at 1K. We'll leave the top at 2K. I could probably knock the top back to 1K as well, but we'll make it 2K. We can always come back and re-export it if we want to add a lower resolution, or we can do it in Photoshop. Either or. Okay, let's jump back into Max and wait 5 minutes for Max to get its act together. Oh, Max surprised me. Just when you're going to bitch about Max, it surprises you. Let's create a shader. For this one, I'm going to create a DirectX shader because I want a bit of a shine in the viewport so it looks pretty. So we'll drag in the DirectX shader. We will change it to, I'll just rename it. Small terrace step. Let's change it to an interactive shader. Let's load up our normal map. So yeah, I remember what it was called this time. What's going on here? Let me see. Now, why did it not? Oh, I bet you I exported the textures to the wrong folder. Let me have a look here. Would have exported it to Pon top ring maybe? No. Let's jump back into Substance Painter for a minute. Actually, I bet you it's sent it to its default location, actually. I bet you that's what it's done. I keep forgetting that. So if I go File, Export Textures, yeah, it sent it to this default location here, which is very annoying. I'm just going to re-export. It'll be quicker for me to re-export it than it will be for me to find that folder and copy them over manually. Let's just do that again. And let's do that again. So we want the normal map. Pon top, no, we don't want the Pon top ring folder. We want The terrace step folder. Okay, this is a multi-material, so terrace step sides. I want only the top to be a DirectX material. The sides can be a normal material. We'll override the gamma to 1. Android Lust says, it seems like the later I work on things, the lazier my naming schemes get. You're not the only one. It's not so much of a problem if you're doing work, if you're working on stuff that only you are going to be working on. It still helps because you forget. But particularly if you're giving work to other people, they get it so irate if everything is not named correctly and not in the right spot in the right folder, and understandably, because it creates 3 times the amount of work for somebody else if they've got to work on your project and they don't know what's going on. Let's load up the metallic map. So I get it. I'm not bitching about people bitching about me not naming stuff. It is important. Did I override the gamma on the metallic? I can't remember. Let me check. No. Must make sure I do that. Okay, we're going to make it unique. We're going to open the shader. This is the DirectX shader, by the way. The node graph of the DirectX shader. Euro says, just include a readme.txt saying where it is. That's not going to... They're going to be just as pissed off with that. Although that would help. That would be better than nothing at all. Best just to name your stuff correctly to begin with. That will be the biggest benefit for people. I'm changing this to 3 lights, and I'm going to export the graph, which is, I'm going to save the shader as terrace step. Okay, I can close that down. I'm just going to bring in the bitmap for the terrace step so I know what it is we're actually looking at here in this shader. Because the DirectX shader does not give us a preview of what it actually looks like, what the material is, it stays grey unless you hook up the colour. And now we can see what it is. Okay, so that's our DirectX shader for the top. We need to create a standard shader now for the sides, which will be this one. I'm just using the colour map, I'm not using the others. I will use the others when we jump into Eon View, just to be clear. Euro says, they can't say you didn't try them. Well, that's true, they can't say you didn't try. That is very true. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to organise myself a little bit. My OCD kicks in if everything isn't lined up. Everything must be nice and lined up. My OCD is kicking in here. These not so much, these are more important. Tateku says, why is a DirectX shader used? How is it different from a standard shader? Okay, well, that's a good question. Now, we're texturing up our models in Substance Painter. So we can see in Substance Painter what our model looks like, with all of the specular, the metallic and roughness, shine and all that sort of stuff with our HDR map. So it all looks pretty. But in 3D Studio Max, the only way that I'm aware of at the moment to actually make our model in Max look like the texture does in Substance Painter is to use a DirectX shader. Because the DirectX shader allows us to plug in our normal map, our roughness map, our metallic, even an ambient occlusion if you're exporting an ambient occlusion from Substance Painter, and see what that looks like in the viewport. A standard material like I've just created for the sides doesn't give you the ability to load in the roughness or the normal, the roughness or the metallic maps, so it won't look like it does in Substance Painter. So basically I'm using a DirectX shader here at the moment just for you guys watching my stream, just so you can see, you get a better idea of what the model looks like after we've been texturing it up in Substance Painter. I'm not going to be using these DirectX shaders in anything else. It's purely visual for you guys to see what it looks like. Because when I bring the model into Eon View, which we're going to use to do the environment beauty renders, I'm going to have to reset up these PBR shaders in View for each material. So, Euro says the ever forthcoming official Substance to Max plugin isn't out, so we won't know what shader they're going to use for that. Yeah, they have talked about doing an integration between Max and Substance. Adobe have talked about integrating it into Painter. So that would be good if they do that. That would be very, very, very helpful if they do that. I'm just moving this off to the side here. And what I'm going to do is here, I'm just going to grab this because it's a multi-material. And I'm going to plug. Let's see if I can get the order right. Bet you I can't. Let's try the top one first. That is correct, except I haven't turned them on. So I must remember to change it from 0 to 1. My apologies there. Macrium's been telling me it's got an update for me. That's my backup software. So yeah, if you leave it at 0, it won't show up. You must change it to 1 for any of the maps you've plugged in. So use color map to 1, use metallic map to 1, and use roughness map to 1. Pardon me. So now with those turned on, it should show up. And we want to plug this one into the side, so that'll be that one. Oh, that one, and maybe if I zoom in, it would be a bit easier for me. We can just delete those two. Okay, so we're using a DirectX shader for the tile on the top, so we can see it in the viewport. We can see the nice shine happening. You guys can see that there. So that's the reason we're using a DirectX shader, so we can get that nice, so it looks like it does in Substance Painter. The sides though, when I turn it on, if I just do that now, show realistic and show shaded, we're not using a DirectX shader, so it won't look quite like it does in Substance Painter, but it will when we take it into Eon View. Okay, so let us unhide everything. We'll go back to the full view. And I just, yeah, that's better. I just wanted just a bit of a difference in color between the blue and the green, just to help to highlight the step, so it doesn't get lost. If we made it blue, it'd get a bit lost in the when you're looking at it. But making it a different color just helps to highlight the step a little bit more. Yura says that green accents the blue nicely. I thought so, and it also helps to tie in with the green we're using inside of the pond here as well. So that was the other reason I wanted to go with the green, just to help tie things in together a little bit more. And because we're using the same model all the way around, we're reusing the same texture on all the steps. Okay, that's our steps done. And again, yeah, that's why I'm using a DirectX shader, so we get this nice gloss happening on stuff. The only way to get that is to actually use a DirectX shader that I'm aware of. If a DirectX shader, if you want it to look like it does in Substance Painter. All right, what shall we work on next? I think what we should do before we do anything, being Max and all, you know, never knowing when Max is going to crash, although Max has been pretty good, really, is do a save, because I turned autosave off on everything. So I must remember to save manually. Control S. What's control? And 500 levels of undo. I do up the undo levels in Photoshop, in Max, in View. I think it defaults to like 20 or something, and I up it to about 50. Because, you know, it helps to have all those levels of undo. You don't know how far back you want to go. Yeah, but I save regularly, and then I start doing incremental saves. So R1, R2, R3, R4, just in case I need to go back to an older version of the model for some reason. Maybe I've changed something. I don't have enough undos left to actually get back to the way I want it, but I can always load up the older version of the model. Okay, we are going to work next, I think. Let's work on the steps here. We've been working from the middle out. Let's work from the front in now, just for something a bit different. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to name this main steps. And we're going to export it manually. We're not going to use the plugin. Create a new folder. Call it main steps. And D-Germs, thank you for the follow, D-Germs. I do appreciate you following my Twitch channel, so thank you, D-Germs, for following. And we're calling this main steps. Okay, let's jump into... Actually, I'm just going to isolate this, so when we come back into Max, we'll be able to jump straight into where we need to be. Let's jump into Substance Painter, make sure we save this in case we want to come back and do some changes and create a new project. Let's select our steps. Compute tangent space, we'll make it 2K. Alrighty, you'll notice this actually does have a little bit of a stone, because we took the steps into ZBrush, remember, and we added a bit of distressing here and there on them. So, let me just get rid of my filter here so we can see all of our materials. Let's bake out everything first. Only got the one texture. Euro says, yeah, max default is something like dark, like 20, which I completely forgot about when I reinstalled my system. Yeah, it is dark. And it is, I think it does default to like 20 or 25. It's one of the first things I always up when I reinstall Max. Okay, so we've baked that out. Let's find something interesting to put on here now. Euro says I should try baking in Substance. I like my Marmoset too much. Substance Baker is actually very good. I like Mighty Bake as well. I use that occasionally. It's got a really good baker as well. And I also use Knald, K-N-A-L-D. It has a good baker too. Spoiled for choice. But you can do all your baking here in Substance Painter. You don't need another program. And the baker in Substance Painter is pretty good. Particularly now it's accelerated. The new version of Painter uses GPU acceleration to do the bakeouts, and it's really fast. Mighty Bake I think does as well, and it's pretty fast. Android Lust says, I think Maya's default is 22. I don't know, yeah, why are they such low defaults? There is a reason for that though. The more undo levels, pardon my throat here, the more undo levels you have, the more memory you're going to use. So I think maybe they're conservative so that people with less memory on their computer don't use it all up in the undo cache. That's probably the reason why they're only 20, but I always up it. Because why not? I'm just looking through here to see what texture might be cool. I'm calling it a texture. What shader? Substance material might be cool to put down. We'll throw a couple of different text materials down and we'll blend them with a smart mask. Smurfery says, I enable indefinite undo. You must have a computer with unlimited memories. Euro says, I prefer Marmoset's control for complex models. Mesh naming in the FBX to auto group in Marmoset is Bay for baking. I have actually used Marmoset. I played with Marmoset very briefly. I don't have it installed. I don't use it. And I've never tried baking in it. So, yeah. But I know that Sniper Girl, she loves Marmoset. A lot of people do. It's good software. I'm not saying it's not. But yeah, no, if I do baking, it's either in Substance Painter, in Gnarled, or in Mighty Bake. If I'm doing beauty renders for my models, I do that inside of the 3D program using V-Ray. Or if they're environment beauty renders, I do it in Eon View. Because I can get my setup. We're going to be setting up a full-on 3D environment with plants and stuff inside of View for this model, because I'm going to be selling this model on my 3D store. And I need some nice pretty beauty renders to sell the model. We're also going to be taking this model into the Unreal Engine, because I'm going to be including it in the House and the Hollow game that we're making. Euro says, yeah, I should try Substance for my next model when it's done and see how it goes. Options, that's right. Well, like I said, Substance now, the new version of Substance with the GPU accelerated baking is incredibly fast. Incredibly fast. I don't know how fast Marmoset is, but yeah, the new baking tools in the new version of Substance are very cool and very fast. Okay, what are we going to use for steps here? What direction do I want to go? Let's see what we got to play with. We have a stone tile, which would be okay. We have stones, which again could be okay if we overlay a couple of things on top of it. Euro says that Marmoset is pretty much instant bakes if you have an RTX card. Oh, cool. It's crazy. Cool. Yeah, but the baking here in Substance Painter is very fast too now. And I think Mighty Bake, I think it does GPU accelerated baking as well. I could be wrong, but I think it does. We could use a pavement. We could use this floor texture. In fact, the best way to do this, I think, is I'm going to throw one of these textures down. I want to see what it's actually going to look like. Some of them aren't going to work, some of them will. Let's just change the tiling before I decide if I do or don't like it. No, I don't like it. That's okay. We'll just remove it. Euro says, but the guy I watched doing it did have a two 2080 RTXs. One purely for rendering. Man. 2 RTX 2080s. That'd be pretty sweet. Let's see what this one looks like. You know, the problem with these sort of textures is getting it to line up is going to be pretty much impossible. And what I mean by line up is the tiling to line up with the edges. So these sort of tiled textures might be harder for us to work with. Like, we could play with the offset to see if we could get it to line up, and we could play with the tiling to see if we could get it to line up better that way. But it's still going to be really difficult to try and get a correct line up. We could do other things like hiding things by putting more layers on top. But at this stage, we'll keep going. We'll see if there's another texture that might be better. Material. Call it a material filler. See, if we wanted to go with something like the brick, we'd have to not tile it uniformly. I just want to see what values we've got to play with here. Not a lot. Euro says, yeah, pretty much empty wallet too. Yeah, that's right. Andrew last says, looks like those bricks need to be rotated. I don't think we can actually use the brickwork. I think the brickwork is like the grouting here is way too big. It looks odd, which we could fix by scaling it, by tiling it more. But if we tile it more, we're going to start having problems trying to get an alignment correct, the correct sort of alignment. So I don't think the brick is really going to work for what we want. That's okay. Let's see what else we got. Let's have a look at this one. Yeah, Euro says bricks are too small a shape for steps. That's true. Although you could run a series of bricks as a step. I have seen that done in real life. But doing it in virtual space here, trying to get the alignment correct is going to be a bit of a pain. Particularly because we're considering we've got so many substances to work with. Why create work when we don't need to? We could just use a substance that's a better fit. Like I don't mind. I like the mossing in this brickwork. I don't like the colour, so I'm hoping it's going to let me change the colour. Good. So I want to change the colour here. I want to make it a darker colour. I want this stone to be quite dark. It'll look better on the model. There'll be more contrast with the tile, the green and blue tile, if it's a darker stone colour. Concrete colour, I'm also going to darken that up. And the actual moss colour as well, I'm going to darken that up a bit as well. Now my alignment. Let's play with the offset a little bit. The other thing that annoys me a little bit about Substance Painter is you see how I'm highlighting that to change the value by typing it in. As soon as I press enter, it deselects it. That's really annoying. It should keep it selected like other software does, so I could quickly enter my values, but I've got to keep reselecting it every time I want to change the value, which gets really annoying really quick. Just these quality of life things, you know, that make your job a little bit easier if you don't have to keep reselecting stuff. And the reason I have to do this is because the sliders are too sensitive. So Legion. Sorry if I'm mangling your username. It says, what are you using to make this? I'm using Substance Painter by Adobe. It used to be by Algorithmic, it's now by Adobe. So Substance Painter is what I'm using here. And I'm using materials that are in Painter to actually, they're like shaders to texture the model. There you go. Android Lust just told Legion Lau. Legion. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name. What? Legion. I'll just call you Legion. Yeah, so I'm just going to play with the offsets here a little bit to see if I can get an alignment I like. I do murder everyone's name, Android Lust. You guys know what I'm like. My regulars know what I'm like. I'm terrible. Absolutely terrible with usernames. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. Really, really bad. I'm just also going to play with the scaling a little bit here. I wish these sliders weren't so sensitive. They're super, super sensitive. Even to the fact when I get a value I like and I let go of the mouse, it sort of still keeps moving. See? Really annoying. Ugh. Wow. God, you're annoying. I love the program and the software. I hate these sliders. They're just too sensitive. Way too sensitive. Just like ZBrush's sliders, Android Lust says, yes, well, you know how much I love ZBrush as well. Their interface. I love the software, but the interface, man, is it bad. I hate that interface so much. So much. I'm just looking at the sides here too, just make sure that my scaling here is correct. You won't see this. You may see a little bit of the side here, I think, but not much. The only thing I don't like here is, I don't like here where we're seeing the line on the front of the step. So I've just got to maybe play with my scaling a little bit. I can change the offset. In fact, let's try playing with the offset a little bit more. 1.01. Oh, only lets me go to 1, okay. 0.85. Zero 0.84. Zero 0.835. Alright. 0.832. Alright. 0.831. Almost. 0.798. That's probably about as good as we're going to get it, I think. What we're going to do anyway is we're going to start throwing down a couple more layers on top of this now, anyway. So I'm just checking to make sure my tile size is correct, like that would be reasonable for stones to be created for steps, and I think that's okay. Yeah, a foot will be, like a person's foot will probably be just maybe the size of one of those stone tile pieces. So let's look for another material to put on top of this one now. I'm just going to remove this and this blank layer. Let's save it just in case, because you never know. What are we calling this again? Terrace steps, I think, wasn't it? I think. Yes. No. Yes. No. This is not terrace main steps. I think it's called main steps. There we go. Alright, let's find another material now to lay down on top of it. Let me just wait for Substance to load them in. Okay, what do we got here? We don't want asphalt. We don't want basalt. What do we want? Bunker concrete. That's a new one. I haven't actually used that before. I'm just curious what it was. No, but we don't want bunker concrete. We want something else. We want... So I'm just going to change the color a little bit as well. I just want to make it a little bit darker. There we go, that's better. It's just looking a little bit too greeny, grey for me. What do we want? What do we want? Concrete raw. Concrete dusty. Let's throw this one down. I'm going to turn off the height and the normal. Change the scaling a little bit. Can we change the color? Good. I'm going to change the color here. I'm going to turn it off and on to get a comparison between the colours of the two. Dirt. Scratches. Damage. You'll see what I'm doing here in a minute. I'm not going to leave it like this. I'm going to actually put a smart mask over the top of it. I just have to get my colours and everything correct before I do that. I might take it into a bit more of a green. Yeah, let's see what smart masks we can put on top of this. Let's look at concrete edges. 6 new messages. Oh, sorry, I'm just getting. I'm looking. I have Discord open as well as my Twitch chat, so that if you guys post in my Discord server, I can see it. It's just been going off, so it's just I'm getting distracted by Discord. Now, do remember to join the Discord server if you're new to my channel and you're watching me for the first time. That's the link I've just popped into Twitch chat. If you want to join the Discord server, show off your work. Because remember, don't post links in my Twitch chat unless you're a sub to my channel, my Twitch channel, because you'll get timed out. But everyone can post links to their work in Discord, so that's why I have Discord there, so that you guys can, if you want to show up your work, there's a place where you can do it. Not to mention, it's a good group of guys and girls on the Discord server, so everyone's very friendly, very helpful. I'm just going to turn invert on just to see if that gives me a more interesting look. I actually think it might be more interesting with invert turned on. We're just going to up the grunge amount a bit more as well, so we've got a bit more colour variation happening in the stone. Curvature's all the way up. Top down gradient. Now I'm going to pull that up so that we have a bit more of the darker colour toward the top and less toward the bottom. We could play with the world space normal. It's not really doing much for us. Okay, so just getting a bit of a two-tone colour so that the original tiles just looked a bit flat. So adding in this concrete on top just helps to add a bit of colour variation in the texture. It's what I've said to you guys all along. When you create 3D models in a 3D program, it's really easy to make things look perfect. But that's fake, because there is nothing perfect in the real world, so we have to make things look less perfect. That's why when I create 3D models, I damage them a little bit. Like a fence, for instance, I'll start moving a couple of the iron pieces in the fence so they're not perfectly straight. They're not all perfectly evenly spaced. Because, you use the array tool and max and everything gets spaced perfectly. That's fake. The real world, nothing is perfect like that. So I purposely go through and move a couple of them further apart. Angle a couple of them, and the same goes for a texture. If a texture looks too clean, it looks fake, because nothing in the real world is completely clean. There's always dust or dirt. So adding a bit of color variation in a texture just helps to make the texture look a bit more realistic. Okay, let's go back up to our materials and let's throw down another material. Let's just do a quick save. What do we got? Euro says, in my utopia, the laws of symmetry are obeyed. In your perfect world there, Euro, everything's symmetrical, everything's clean. Okay, we want another texture. Because why stop at 2 when you can have 3 or 4? All the textures. Materials. I've got to stop calling them textures. They're materials. They're substance materials, not substance textures. What do we put down next? I do have to be careful though. I don't want to use up, I don't want my PC to crash. I don't want to use up all my video memory like has happened before. Forest ground stylized. No, I don't want that one. Forest cover dry. Maybe. I'm hesitant to actually put it on because some of these are quite complex shaders. And the more complex the shader, the more at risk I am of crashing my machine. Even though I've got 32 gigs of memory, that's not the problem. It's because I've got Max running in the background. I'm using huge amounts of DirectX shaders in the Max viewport. It's not normally a problem. I'm not suggesting that Substance is buggy. It's not. Well, not generally. But I've got a lot going on in the background there as well. Euro says that until you got to break symmetry because rifle only ejects from one side. Make it eject from both. Have two double barrels and they both fire at the same time and eject at the same time. Android Lust says, I wonder if there's a rifle that ejects from both ends, both sides, or if that's... Yeah, I don't know. Would that be possible? You get the firing pin. Could you have two bullets side by side with one firing pin to fire two shots at the same time? Would that be possible? Make it jam, or Android Lust says, yeah. Euro says, not usually, no. You can set certain rifles up to eject one way or the other, but not both. Can you shoot two bullets? Could you make a gun that has two bullets that are fired at the same time with the one being struck by the one thingy? You guys know I don't know much about guns. I don't model guns or cars generally, so I don't know anything about them. I'm just curious if you could have a gun that could shoot two bullets at the same time. Euro says one firing pin. No, you don't need two. No, you'd need two barrels. So a double barrel shotgun, that's shooting two bullets at the same time, yeah? I'm assuming. A dual barrel rifle may work for it, right? Okay. Let's see if this ground... if we can use this ground. Again, I'm making sure I did a save here, just in case. I've shut down Alchemist, that's good. Let me turn off the height and the normal. Let's play with the scaling a little bit. Because I'm using this more as a dirt layer than anything. It's a ground, it's meant to be used as ground cover. But I want to use it as a dirt layer. Euro says, yeah, you don't normally shoot both barrels on a double barrel shotgun, usually one after the other. I guess Doom kind of glorified that. That's why I'm getting confused, because I've watched video games like Doom where it looks like both barrels are shooting at the same time. Android Love says, yeah, it shoots two shells, but I think some of those shotguns have a dual trigger. Mercury says, look up double barrel 1911. Let's make some changes here to the colour. Hopefully I can. Yes, good. The dirt colour, again, I want to darken it right up. Maybe not too much. I'm going to remove the pebbles, I think. We could leave some pebbles in, I guess. I'm just going to change the colour of them though. I want to make them more of a green. Greeny grey. And again, I'm going to put a smart mask on this, so ignore what it looks like at the moment. I'm just trying to get the colours correct more than anything. Euro says, I'm not saying it's not possible, it's more the practicalities of it. And Android Lust says, I know just much about guns as well. I know nothing about guns. I don't model them. I have never shot a gun in my life. That goes to show you how much I know about guns. I have never fired a gun in my life. I don't even know if I've even modeled one, to be honest. I can't remember. I may have, in my days I'm working in the game studio, I may have modelled a gun back then, I think. Euro says, I research a lot into the weapons I model. Well, you should be researching anything you model. It's always a good idea. Reference, reference, reference. It's mega, mega important to get correct references. Android Lust said, I would assume that if the shotgun shot both shells simultaneously, it would kick like crazy. I imagine it would. Euro says, yeah, the recoil would be a butt mad Android Lust. A bit mad. I'm just going to start playing here with the mixing of the top layer here. I want to see if I can get a mix that'll be a little bit more interesting. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. Linear dodge, subtract. No, not subtract. Maybe subtract, maybe. We'll come back to it in a minute. It can be easy to forget about the different pass-through values you can have here. You know, you're working away on your texture and you think, and you concentrate more on either painting in detail or layering materials or using smart masks. You sometimes, at least me, I sometimes forget about these, that we can change these values over here as well. And you can get some really interesting blends. Not always, but sometimes. I actually quite like the overlay more than anything, I think. So what we can do, because I like the look of this, I like it, like it looks like we're getting dirt being built up here and there in the over the step. But I don't like the fact that it's darkened everything up so much. So we'll keep going, but I might come back to overlay. Because we can always get around that by using a smart mask, or even just doing a paint by hand. Android Lost says to Smurfberry that the double barrel 1911 looks weird. Neuro says, and if one shot fired ahead of the other, the recoil from the first shell would immediately affect your aim and weapon balance. That's true. Android Lost says, looks as if someone welded two 1911s together. Hard light, no. Vivid light, no. We don't want it to look like there's lava flowing in the step. No. Tint. No, tint is not going to work. Colour's not going to work for us either. Let's go back to... You think I can remember which one it was now? Was it overlay? It might have been overlay. Again, I'm just going to play with my colour here a little bit. It's going to darken it up. Or do I want to lighten it up? Well, we might play with the color value a bit once we add a smart mask, so let's do that. Let's just do a quick save. And let's find an interesting smart mask. Pardon me. Let's look at the dirt soft edges. I'm actually going to turn invert off. I want it to be the other way. Let's give it a bit of blur. Maybe pull up a little bit on the contrast. Maybe. Yeah, pull up a bit on the contrast. Just going to pull back a little. What I'm looking for here is I want the dirt to affect just the edges of the step. More than anything, we could invert it so we have the dirt more on the inner part of the step if we wanted. See, that might be better. I'm just trying to work out in real life. You've got steps, people walk up the steps. Is it going to get more dirty on the front of the step, or is dirt going to accumulate more in the back of the step here? I assume it's actually going to accumulate more in the back of the step, actually, because people walking on the step would have a tendency to remove dirt more than add it. Android Lust says, Euro, sometimes humans are a little too quick to kill someone over something so petty. So yeah, I think maybe, pardon me, maybe the dirt is more inclined to accumulate inside this, at the back of the step here than on the edge of the step. I think. When the downtown lights start to come out at night, we go insane. And when so let's play with the balance here a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to pull up on the blur. Pull up on the contrast. I'm actually going to invert it here as well. Here it says, yeah, usually you get grime growth under the drip edge on steps since nobody walks there. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. After me thinking about it, yeah, the edges here, people tend to step more on the edge. So they're less likely to accumulate dirt than the overhang here under the steps. I'm just going to pull back here a little bit though. I think it's just a little bit too heavy. I think that's better. Let's do a quick save. And just for the hell of it, let's throw down one more layer again. So back to materials. And for this one, let's go with We could go with a rough clay. That might be cool. Or we could just go with our standard mud. I think we're going to go with the standard mud. That's the one I generally use a lot for dirt. Just going to make sure our scaling is up a little bit. We're going to turn off the height in the rough. We are going to make it darker. I'm also going to turn off the roughness as well. The Hambone. Good to see you, Hambone. How are you? How you been? What you been up to? Always good to see you there, Hambone. I hope you're well. Not too bad. A little less and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Well, that's the way to be. Just saying to the guys, I didn't stream last week, so I've had the flu. So if I sound a bit nasally and I cough a little bit, my apologies in advance. In fact, I'm just going to have one of my lozenges again, so I feel my throat getting a bit raspy. But it's good to see you. Good to see you, Hambone. Okay, what project are you working on these days? You asking? We are working on a Temple of the Winds in 3D Studio Max. So a terrace which is going to have a fountain and urns that are going to have flames in them. That's what we're working on at the moment. I'm just doing the steps for it here in Substance Painter. I'll show you in 2 seconds, Hambone. So I'm just trying to get my color correct here for my dirt layer. Let's go back to our smart masks, and for this one, let's which one do I want? Let's try this. I haven't used this one actually. Let's turn invert on and off. Alright. Balance. Just trying to get a feel for what the texture is doing. Blur. No, we don't want the blur. Contrast. Contrast is not really doing a lot. Texture opacity. No, we don't want to pull that up. Texture to opacity. No. Ambient occlusion. No. Curvature. World space. Position. Thickness. See, this is where if we wanted to turn global invert on, pull this in a little bit. just after a bit, I'm trying to make the steps look less uniform, like the color. I want more dirt on some steps and no dirt on others, you know what I mean? Just add more color interest in the step. I might also just knock back the color a little bit. That should be good. I don't think we need to throw any more layers down. I think it should be okay. Let's just do a save. Euro says, I was going to say summer flu. It's harsh, but it's winter there. Rue's in the snow and all. That's right, you're right. It's winter. It's a winter flu that's been going around. It's been a bad one. Like I said, it's, yeah, killed 500 people or so in this country this winter. It's been a bad flu. Let's export our textures. Just before I do that, I'm going to rename the texture. I'm going to call it main steps. Remember to put it in the right path this time. And it's called, what is the folder called? Main steps. Main steps. I'm actually going to save it as a 4K texture because it is quite a large piece of the model. It's the steps at the very front of the model. So I want it to be nice and high res. We may knock it back to 2K when I bring it into the game engine. But for our beauty renders and for me selling the model, I want it to be 4K. Let's jump back in here. I'm not going to set up a smart material, DirectX shader for this one. I'm just going to use a standard material. Standard material. There we go. And the bitmap. So I'm only going to use the color map. But when we take it into view and set up the PBR material, we will use all of the normals and stuff then. M. Show realistic and show shaded. Okay, now it's showing up like that because I need to override the gamma. Even that doesn't look quite correct. Why is that? Why you show up darker? Why? I'm just going to jump back into Substance Painter. I just want to try and work out why it's making such a difference in color. It's very strange. Alright, let's see what it looks like as a DirectX shader. We may as well. Let me see if I can get a better color match using DirectX. Interactive. Here it says you have the bitmap selected when you set the object material. Oh. Oh. I get what you're saying. No, I didn't. No, I didn't have the bitmap selected. It's to do with the gamma. The way that Max is using the gamma for some reason is a bit strange. Anyway, let's double check that again. Oh, go away. God, you're annoying. See, that's too light. It looks weird. I'm just going to double check the texture actually. Let me just view the texture. Doesn't look too bad. Let's try setting up as a DirectX material. We'll see what that gives us. So we want the normal map. The color map. Metallic. And the roughness. I want to make sure we turn them on. Let's just hook up our material so we know what it is. I think I might have forgotten to override the gamma here on the color map. I think that color is more like it is in Substance Painter. Let's just unhide everything and have a look. Just waiting for Max. Okay. No, that's too dark. I wanted contrast, but not that much contrast. So we can let's override the gamma. Hambone says, how do you get so good at figuring out colours? I've had other people ask me about colour before. It's just, when you do it enough, after a while, you don't think about it. It's an acquired skill. The more you do it, the better, the easier you'll find it, basically. It can be a little bit confusing at first, but once you do it enough times, then you don't really think. Well, I don't really think about it. It's just sort of just the more you do it, the better you'll get. The color map. I'm actually thinking there's a couple of ways I can tackle this. I can either change the color in Substance Painter, or I can adjust the color in Photoshop. And because we're working in Substance Painter with 4 or 5 different material layers, it would probably be quicker and easier to do the adjustment in Photoshop. Yeah, I could also do an adjustment here by overriding the gamma and doing it that way. But this is not a great way to do it. You see how I've just lightened it up by changing the gamma? It works. That's sort of more of the color I want. But when I take this into Eon View, the color is still going to be too dark. So if I was just working in Max here, this would be a valid way to fix it. But that's not going to work for us in the long run. Like I said, I could either change it here, but we're going to have to make adjustments to 5 different layers, or 4 different layers. Or I can just open up Photoshop, which is what I'm going to do. Open up the texture, adjust the color texture. We don't need to change the others, the metallic or anything. We only need to change the color texture. And I'm just going to throw an adjustment layer on this. Wrong way. Oi, stop that. And re-save this out again. I'm going to save as... I think we're working in PNG. Yep. I'm not going to overwrite the original just in case I do want to come back to it. I'm just going to make this one 2. Version 2. Jump back into Max. Make sure I change my original back to what it was. Change the gamma back. We didn't change it there, we changed it here. So yeah, I'm going to set that back to 1. But I'm going to change it from that darker one to the one we just did some gamma correction on in Photoshop, so this one. And that's good. And that's better. So if I just pull out here so we can have a bit of a look. I'm just going to assign that texture to these other steps. It's getting hard for me to see what I'm doing here. There we go. In fact, I'm going to assign this texture to it. I want to see if this one is better. No, nope, we'll go back to this one. Just going to zoom around the model here and have a look. The steps are still probably a little bit too dark. Well, they may be okay. Hard to say until we get a little bit more done. I still think they might be a little dark. Let me just close down Photoshop in the background. We don't need that running anymore. What I want to do here is I want to make a smart material out of all of our layers. So we're going to call this one My Terrace Steps. Make sure all of our layers are in that folder. And let's create a smart material so that we can reuse that on the round steps that are sitting underneath of the dome. So again, I'm just going to make sure I did a save here. Let's just jump back into Max really quick and pull out so we can get a better overview of the model. So yeah, we're going to use the same smart material that we used here for the steps for the round steps here. And I may end up just doing a little bit more gamma correction here to make sure that the steps are a little bit lighter. But I won't do that till we actually create the shader for here, and then we'll work out the color balance when that's done. Ira says, I look a bit too dark blue-green, grey-green compared to the rest of us. Yeah, I agree. That's why I think we will lighten them up. One option would be for me just to assign that. The reason they're looking dark is because that, I think, is a better fit than the darker one. So, yeah, the reason they're looking dark in the DirectX shader is because that shader is only using one light. I didn't change it to 3 because if I changed it to 3, I'd have to save it out and make it unique. And yeah, but lightning, using the gamma corrected version here that's not a DirectX shader, that color better blends with these pillars. So I think this color is a better match than the darker one. It's the DirectX shader that makes it look dark, not the texture. That's what I'm trying to say and not doing a very good job. But yeah, so that's what we'll do. Just before I finish up for the day, I'm just going to change these ones to that texture as well, that normal shader, not the DirectX shader. There we go. Let's just zoom in here a little bit. And there we go. Let's do a quick save all here. I think we might leave it there though for today, guys and girls. I do want to thank you all though very much for hanging out with me and watching. And remember, I was streaming after my week away sick. Yes, I am still working on the horror game Hambone. We're going to be doing that next month. We're going to be working on the horror game live on stream. The House in the Hollow. Yes, it's coming along. I've got a programmer doing some scripting stuff for me. There's a couple of guys working on sound effects and composing music. There's actually a couple of programmers working on it as well. We're going to be doing some of the graphics and stuff, the design part of it on stream here on Twitch soon, after this project. Once this project is finished, we're going to be jumping into the House in the Hollow. You're heading to bed, no problems? Yes, I do want to thank you guys, like I said, though, very much for hanging out and for watching. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time in the United States. We'll continue here. I want to get the texturing finished. We've only got 2 things left to texture, I think. The round steps here and the lines. And then we'll be finished with Substance Painter. And then we're probably going to jump into Mari just to do a bit of overpainting on a couple of textures. And then we're jumping into View. And then after that, the next project will be working on the House in the Hollow. But you guys and girls have a great night. And thank you again for being here and watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow for our next stream at 5 p.m. You guys take care. See you later.